FEMA and the Mormon Church agree on a 12 food storage list. Cheap common items, mostly under $2. Decades of study led both to the same conclusion, but the real reasons behind each pick are unexpected. The top item redefines preparedness itself, while the final three are the most surprising of all. Number 12, crackers. This is probably the most underestimated item on the entire list. And the reason it catches people off guard tells you something important about how most of us think about emergencies. FEMA does not recommend crackers because they are cheap. They recommend them because crackers solve a problem most households do not even know they have until they are already in the middle of it. In most real disruptions, the first challenge is not a shortage of food. It is the sudden inability to cook any of it. Think about your kitchen right now. Electric stove, electric microwave, electric toaster. The moment the power goes out, all of that is gone at once. And if it is dark, if conditions are uncertain, number 11, pasta. Most food storage guides focus heavily on what is nutritious. Almost none of them ask the more important question, will your family actually eat it? A 1 lb box of dry pasta costs $1 to $2 and gives you roughly 8 servings. The math alone is hard to argue with, but that is not really why pasta is on this list. What pasta does that almost no other stored food can replicate is create meals people genuinely want to sit down to. Kids recognize it. Adults have favorite versions of it. It carries a familiarity that equally affordable staples simply do not have. Here's what that difference actually looks like. A family is 5 days into a week-long power outage. Number 10, peanut butter. Ask most food storage experts, which single item delivers the most value per dollar? And the answer comes back the same way almost every time, and it is sitting in the majority of American kitchens right now. A large jar of peanut butter holds close to 3,000 calories. Getting that same amount of energy from most other foods means spending significantly more or buying several different things. Peanut butter delivers it all in one container, but the calorie count is only part of it. Peanut butter gives you protein and fat at the same time. Number 9, oats. A large canister of oats costs a few dollars and provides roughly 25 to 30 servings. The cost per meal, worked out honestly, often falls under 30. Almost nothing else in the breakfast aisle comes close to that number. But the financial case for oats is actually the secondary argument. Many common morning choices, packaged cereals, toast, breakfast bars, produce a quick blood sugar rise, followed by an equally quick crash. Hunger is back within a couple of hours. A mid-morning snack becomes necessary, then another decision around lunch. Every extra eating occasion adds cost and consumption. Over weeks, that pattern compounds quietly. Oats work differently, and the reason is specific. They contain beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber that has been extensively studied for its role in slowing digestion and sustaining fullness. A bowl of oatmeal at 7 in the morning tends to keep hunger at bay past 10, sometimes all the way to lunch, in a way most alternatives simply do not manage. The flexibility strengthens the case further. Oats pair naturally with several other items already on this list. A spoonful of peanut butter, a handful of raisins or dried apricots, a splash of powdered milk. Each addition makes the meal more complete, without meaningfully raising the cost or the effort. For adults over 50, a reliable, filling breakfast tends to support steadier eating habits across the rest of the day. That is a health benefit and a budget benefit at the same time. Number 8, dried fruit. Fresh fruit is one of the most nutritionally valuable foods you can eat. It is also one of the first things that becomes unavailable when your normal routine gets disrupted. Bananas brown within days. Berries can turn in under a week. Even harder options like apples and oranges have a limited window before they need to be used or thrown out. Dried fruit addresses that problem directly. When most of the moisture is removed, fruit becomes shelf-stable for months, light enough to carry in an emergency kit, and compact enough to fit in a small container. Raisins, dried apricots, and dried cranberries are the most common choices because they are available, affordable, and familiar to most households. The nutritional contribution is real. Number 7, canned vegetables. There's a pattern that repeats itself almost every time someone builds a food storage supply for the first time. They stock rice, they stock pasta, they add crackers, oats, and peanut butter. Then some protein. They step back and feel like they have covered the basics. Weeks or months later, they notice the gap. No vegetables. Canned vegetables, green beans, corn, peas, carrots typically cost $1 to $2 per can in most American supermarkets. For that price, a household gets fiber, vitamins, and minerals that none of the primary staples supply in useful amounts. Number 6, canned fruit. Most people would not put canned fruit anywhere near the top of a preparedness list. It sits quietly at the back of the shelf. It is not marketed as a health food. It rarely makes it into the cart without a specific reason. Then, the power goes out. The bananas on the counter soften by day 2. The grapes lose their texture. The strawberries that were perfect 48 hours ago are no longer edible. Everything fresh, gone, or going quickly. Meanwhile, the can of peaches on the pantry shelf is exactly where it was, unchanged, ready. No electricity needed, no refrigeration, no decision required. That is the real value of canned fruit. Not that it outperforms fresh fruit, but that it is still there when fresh fruit is not. They do not think purely in calories. They think about balance maintained over time. A supply built entirely around rice, beans, and pasta provides enough energy for weeks. But after 10 or 12 days of eating nothing but dry starches, most people begin to strongly crave variety. A can of peaches or pineapple introduces a completely different flavor, texture, and sweetness into a meal that has otherwise become repetitive. That shift affects how much people eat and how well they function. Many canned fruits also retain meaningful levels of vitamin C and vitamin A depending on the product. One deliberate choice worth making at the shelf. Check how the fruit is packed. Juice, or 100% fruit juice, is meaningfully different from heavy syrup. That single label decision represents a significant difference in sugar intake across repeated servings. Canned fruit is not competing with fresh fruit. It is competing with the day when fresh fruit is simply not an option. On that basis, it earns its place. If this is landing differently than you expected, if this is making you look at your pantry differently, like on this video, genuinely helps more people find it. Takes 1 second and it means a lot. Number 5, powdered milk. Most people assume powdered milk is a backup, a substitute for when fresh milk runs out. That framing misses the point. The reason powdered milk appears on both FEMA's list and in the Mormon Church's storage guidelines is not about convenience. It is about a nutritional gap that most food storage plans quietly contain, one that most people do not notice until it is already affecting them. When families prepare for emergencies, they tend to think in terms of calories and protein, rice for energy, beans for protein, pasta for flexibility. Number 4, canned meat. There is a change that happens gradually as people get older that most do not notice until it has been underway for years. Muscle mass quietly declines. The body becomes less efficient at processing protein than it was earlier in life. And the consequences, reduced strength, slower recovery from ordinary activity, a gradual loss of physical resilience, tend to show up most clearly in the decade after 50. This is the specific reason canned meat holds a distinct position on both lists. Canned tuna, salmon, chicken, and corned beef share something that separates them from most plant-based protein sources. Number 3, dry beans and lentils. If someone described the following to you, most people would assume it was a financial product of some kind. Something that costs $1 to $2 per pound, delivers protein, fiber, and sustained energy in a single package, has been used as a dietary foundation by virtually every major civilization in recorded history, and when stored correctly, can remain viable for decades. Number 2, white rice. Walk into a kitchen almost anywhere on Earth, and there is a reasonable chance you will find it. Rice appears in the daily diet of more people than almost any other single food. It has sustained populations across Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa for thousands of years. It crossed cultural, geographic, and linguistic boundaries that separated civilizations for millennia. Foods that disappear tend to disappear because they have limitations. Rice has endured because it largely does not have many. Its value in a food storage context is not built on any single exceptional property. It is built on the combination. Number 1, whole wheat berries. Every other item on this list is a food. This one is a system. Walk through the center aisles of any modern supermarket. Bread in dozens of forms, crackers across multiple shelves, pasta in every shape, breakfast cereals filling entire sections. The goal is not simply to have enough food to survive. It is to maintain the capacity to function independently, to create meals rather than simply consume them, to remain genuinely self-reliant rather than dependent on what happens to be left on a store shelf. Research from Brigham Young University confirmed that properly stored wheat berries remain viable and nutritionally intact after more than 30 years. Think about what that means practically. Decades of change in technology, economy, politics, and daily life, and the wheat is still there, still capable of becoming a meal for your family. After going through all 12, a pattern becomes clear that is easy to miss when looking at any single item on its own. None of these foods are expensive. None requires specialty sourcing or unusual expertise. Every single one is available in a standard American grocery store, often in the same aisle you move through every week without a second thought. What both FEMA and the Mormon Church understand, and what both organizations have communicated through these recommendations for decades, is that preparedness is not about bracing for catastrophe. It is about recognizing that disruptions are a normal part of life. Prices change, supply chains get interrupted, storms arrive. Circumstances shift in ways that are largely outside any family's control. The household that has a few weeks of these 12 foods stored correctly has not prepared for the worst-case scenario. It has simply removed a specific category of vulnerability from everyday life. When a storm arrives, there is no scramble to a grocery store that may already be sold out. When prices spike, there is time to wait, rather than being forced to buy at peak cost. When a disruption lasts longer than expected, there are options available that most nearby households simply do not have. Adding one item per week at the pace of a regular grocery run builds a meaningful supply within a few months without pressure, without a large upfront cost, and without turning preparedness into a project that feels overwhelming. And over time, quietly and without drama, a pantry becomes something more than a place where food waits to be used. It becomes a resource. Which of these 12 surprised you the most? And which one are you going to pick up first? Tell me in the comments. I read every one.